Hey everyone, Arthur here, back to covering the all-important DLCs on the 360. Over 100 games with DLCs this time. You're in for a wild ride, because the goal here is to cover every single non-backwards compatible DLC, so do check out the previous DLC video with 50 other games, out of which 22 are also non-backwards compatible. And since you're doing that, also check out the rest of the series for hundreds of game recommendations on the 360, including true exclusives, because those totally exist, as well as my coverage of the 3 waves of price drops. If you can call that last one a wave, right? It was 7 games only, and those were already included weeks in advance, so everyone already knew about them. So that was really disappointing. But anyway, since we are running out of time, I'm now focusing exclusively on the non-backwards compatible DLCs that will become unavailable to many, because on top of being non-backwards compatible, several of these are also only otherwise available on the PlayStation 3, and I don't think a whole lot of people have or want to have both a 360 and a PlayStation 3. And furthermore, the PlayStation 3 is expected to also have its digital stores closed down soon, which I will be covering for sure once it happens, by the way. But that's all to say that these here are the most important DLCs right now, as they're the closest to or straight up are disappearing altogether. And DLCs are a mess. There are delisted games that still have DLCs up, backwards compatible games where the DLCs were not carried over, some were never made backwards compatible on 1 and series, others were removed at some point, and others still show up there at the 1 and series store but are unpurchasable. It's a mess. Hope this can help as many people as possible, so if you appreciate the effort, do me a solid and hit that like so this can be shown to more people and help them as well. Alright everyone, we have no time to waste. July 29th is fast approaching, so I'll be quicker than ever on each game on the list, save for a few, and the intro will be the quick one, so let's do this. Welcome to the channel, this is From the Void. Let's begin with some of the most important games to mention, and it's crazy how none of these are backwards compatible. We're talking about Blazblue. Okay, Calamity Trigger, Continuum Shift, and Continuum Shift Extend all have DLCs. And as fighting games without their revisions and iterations usually are, it's confusing. So let's dig in. Oh, and I don't need to talk much about Blazblue, right? Pretty well known and excellent series of fighters here. Cool characters, great graphics, creative and well-balanced mechanics, and kick-ass soundtracks. Yeah, Calamity Trigger came first, and if you want the complete glorious Calamity experience, there are only a handful of options, which is crazy given how great the game is. Your options are PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Steam, that's it. There is a PSP version too, but no multiplayer there, so I guess it's the lesser option. The unlimited versions of each character, which is what the PSP version introduced that made it unique, came to consoles later in form of DLCs. For a total of $8.99, you can grab all of them on the 360, by choosing the other unlimited characters unlocked DLC, plus the 4 standalone ones for Hakuman, Mu, Rachel, and Ragna. There are also 3 combos of additional character colors, one for $4.99 and 2 more for $5.99 each. Kind of expensive colors there. Then Continuum Shift has 2 versions on the 360, Vanilla and Extend. Vanilla has DLCs that add 4 new characters already found in Extend, as well as DLCs that change the system voice that says choose your character and the wheel of fate is turning to the voices of the several actors of the characters. But if you don't have either game yet, you should go straight with Extend. It updates the story mode, adds 1 more character on top of the 4 that were DLCs before, adds new moves, a new game mode, a new opening, the works. But it also has DLCs, the additional voices are back. Problem is that they are charging a lot for those on both games. Each one goes for $4.99 for a total of $34.99. So maybe just pick your favorite one and call it a day. Next, I'm happy to feature once again in grand fashion the punch in your face that is Anarchy Reigns. Apparently, we did not know what we had during this generation. I wish we had more of these. This is a real stylish, high adrenaline action game on top of a great multiplayer, great looking graphics, awesome characters, and something I was criticized for, rightfully so, for not mentioning a kick-ass soundtrack. Hell yeah, soundtrack here is really cool, goes really well with the action, making everything feel even more badass. So yeah, this game has it all, man, including DLC, and a major one too. Not only a new character, but the best new character imaginable, Bayonetta. Perfect fit for the game for $2.99, and additionally for $1.99 you can get new multiplayer modes. If you look this game on the PlayStation 3 store, which is your only other option for it, by the way, you will notice that it offers a third DLC, but fret not. It's only a paid option to unlock 2 characters that can be unlocked through regular gameplay. And I'm happy to feature once more Renegade Ops. This is a top-down twin-stick shooter mixed with driving for a marvelous blend of high adrenaline action where you can upgrade weapons in between stages, grab power-ups with secondary weapons like flamethrowers and rocket launchers, use characters' exclusive special skills, and drive other things like helicopters. I love this. And the DLCs are must-grabs with a $4.99 one called Cold Strike Campaign, adding a proper expansion, and a $2.99 one which adds a new character with a new skill and vehicle. Next is a hidden gem DLC for a region-free 360 game you can play in any 360 system, but this was released only in Japan. And if you've seen my 360 region-free video, you already know about this, and I won't fault you for skipping. For everyone else, we are talking about Mushihimesama Futari. This is a fantastic, gorgeous and mesmerizing shoot 'em up, one of the best of its kind. Do watch that region-free video for more details. Now there are 2 DLCs for this game. One of them is only found in the physical copies of Mushihimesama Futari. I may have gotten this wrong in my region-free video actually. Apparently all copies have the 1.01 version DLC that unlocks the arcade faithful version of the game, but the other DLC is the one that really matters for this video, and it's the most important one because it unlocks Black Label, and that's the best iteration of the game, most will agree. Everything is better balanced here, you are more powerful and so are the enemies in a great way. This goes for $14.99 and it's available worldwide even though the game was only released in Japan. Yeah, confusing, I know. And it gets worse, you won't find it easily in the store because the 360 marketplace is all kinds of broken at this point. The link to the DLC inside the game doesn't work, the game doesn't show up under the letter M or any other letter, and searching for words like Black Label or Futari will not work. The only way I could find this was using the search function and manually typing in Mushihimesama the entire word. That way you can download the DLC with Black Label even if you don't have the game yet but are planning to do so in the future, because the only way you can play this officially is with the physical. So there you go, a lot of obscure information here for this awesome game which is completely exclusive to the 360. Isn't it the best feeling ever when you boot up a game and you see these 2 words right there, and then you're greeted with an awesome cutscene and you know you're about to dive into a deep adventure in a cool world with interesting story and all that good stuff. But in between us and such experiences, there may be a spiky, grumpy, cynical obstacle called IGN. Yeah, let's talk about that. This is the Last Remnant. Fucking hell. What do I always say? Check Famitsu, right? Holy hell, man. What happened here? This is not funny. Look this one up online. Just type Last Remnant reviews. What's the first thing that shows up? Goddamn IGN with a piss poor score of 5.3. And by the way, I get this kind of comment every now and then that says that 5.3 or 6 or whatever is not equal to bad. And I know it's not. What it's equal to is barely passable. Probably avoid this. There are much better things out there. That's what a 5.3 means. Now, is it a fair score to this game? Well, let's look at a second, third, fourth, and fifth opinions from Famitsu. What? That's a 10, a 9, a 10, and another 9 for an average of 9.5. Is that the same as 5.3? That's a masterpiece level score. How is this insane discrepancy possible? And who's lying here, right? Well, take a wild guess. I'll help you. It's IGN. The guy is straight up justifying this product obliterating score with the game being for hardcore audiences only. But if a hardcore RPG player sees a 5.3, guess what game they're not playing? So what a disservice. The review has the exact opposite effect that it's supposed to. And by the way, isn't the hardcore audience the most demanding when it comes to the games they like? Unless the guy is confusing hardcore players with whatever he thinks of them, like masochistic, or people who like games to be complicated just for the sake of being complicated. And that's not true, dude. I mean, he's not wrong that the game has a high learning curve. It freaking offers battles with dozens of people on each side. Let me say that again, this is a turn-based RPG, not a strategy RPG, with dozens of people on each side. So of course it's gonna be wildly different with what it expects from the players, with all the information you have to get used to, and what it all means. Of course that this is a difficult game in the beginning, because it breaks expectations from players completely. And yes, it's true that the game slows down to low textures, which is a letdown, but while spoiled IGN guy there is like, screw this, I can't take loading textures, so no one else should. Famitsu professionals care to see what this game brings that is invaluable, what the many kinds of people that may be reading their reviews may treasure on this game. And it's so much, because this is awesome, man. Hard to stop playing, especially in the battle side. And what's awesome about it is exactly what makes it challenging, because this is completely different to anything else. You don't control each character directly, you control unions of multiple characters and troops, making battles feel like skirmishes, which is really cool. There's a whole aspect around battle positioning, which is confusing at first, but it makes a world of difference if you decide to, for instance, stop a deadlock battle with an enemy and turn and face another group of enemies. It completely changes the tides of battle, and this is cool, and it truly works once it clicks, and they do give you the tools and explanations to get there, and it's up to you if you do. And on top of all that, the story is interesting, characters and their interactions are complex and deep. Anyway, there is much more to say. I'm overextending myself here, I apologize, I couldn't help it. IGN boils my blood. I mean, this game is not perfect, I wouldn't go as far as calling it a 10, but it's definitely closer to that than to a 5, much closer. And DLCs are significant and mostly free. There are 2 packs of side quests for free and a new dungeon for free. The paid one is only $125 and grants 3 new formations for battle. By the way, this game is not found in the 360 catalog under the letter T, so I checked the letter L and it's not there either. So you'll have to manually type The Last Remnant in the search thing, then pick the game, scroll to the extras, and there you go. Also, this game has a remaster for PlayStation 4 and Switch, but not on Xboxes. And now, one of those I mentioned in the intro that are backwards compatible, but the DLCs are unpurchasable. And for a very cool game too, The Maw. Okay, this is adorable, the graphics are great, the creatures are quirky and fun, especially the Maw. The gameplay is all about feeding this little purple guy all kinds of creatures for all kinds of effects. It keeps getting bigger and bigger, to the point where you'll be leading around a hot air balloon sized creature in the end of the game. It's awesome. Several of the things it can eat will grant it special abilities abilities like floating, breathing fire, and more, and your little alien guy can interact with the environment in a different way by using his leash to guide them all or manipulate objects and other creatures around. It's pretty cool. Great game here from Twisted Pixel, and the DLC adds a proper expansion with more stages, the deleted scene stages. So you can grab each one for $125 on the 360, and that's the only way you can carry it forward to 1 and series apparently. Your only other option for this game and DLC is on Steam. Next we have another underrated game from this generation that Japanese reviewers liked but Western ones did not. Y'all know how I feel about this, right? This is Project Sylpheed. This is a real tough game, but also very cool, and we don't get too many of these. This is a straightforward space shooter and an impressively well made one where maneuvering around the 360-degree scale actually feels awesome. Getting the controls is hard for just about 5 minutes or so. You have to lock on to the targets only when you are already aligned with them. Otherwise it becomes very disorienting to position yourself in their direction, but if you get past that one hurdle, you can delight yourself in this awesome space shooting action, which offers a lot of fun. It is a punishing game though. Stages may be comprised of several missions in succession, and failing on the last one will force you to redo the previous ones. But that's it, I can't see anything else to complain. Graphics are cool, cutscenes are awesome, so is the music and sound effects. Progression is great, you keep unlocking all these new guns and missiles. This is a solid 8 in my opinion, and the DLC is meaningful, adding more missions, weapons, and the leaderboard feature, and what's best, all for free. Project Sylpheed is completely exclusive to the 360, and the only reason I have not covered it yet is that it has a physical version, but the DLC is of course digital only and will be lost forever into the void officially very soon. Oh, and by the way, this game is for some reason not showing up under the letter P, so you can find game and DLC in the freaking search function, spelling Project Sylpheed, the whole thing. Never try abbreviations in this terrible search engine. Now for a major highlight and one of the best fighting games on the 360, Guilty Gear X2 Accent Core Plus. Or is it Guilty Gear Cross 2 Accent Core Plus? Or Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus? Or maybe Guilty Gear Cross Accent Core Plus? No, that can't be it. But then dude, on this trailer, officially from Arc System Works, they call the previous game Guilty Gear Zex.
Guilty Gear Zex.
So what is it now? Zex 2? Ugh. Alright, I give up, whatever, doesn't matter. This is a beautiful game, and since the series blew up recently with Strive and it reached the mainstream in a massive way and is staying there, I'm sure there will be a lot of people looking to try the previous games in the series, myself included. I've just recently picked this one up for the first time, and even though I'm a newcomer to it, it's clear to see that this is an excellent game. Holds up insanely well. The series already counts with some of the coolest characters on fighting games ever. It is easy to pick up and full of stuff to master. It's beautiful to look at, and the soundtrack rules. This is a must play for fighting fans in my opinion. If you research this game online, you will see that there are several revisions of it, with Plus being the second to last. Guilty Gear X2 or whatever Accent Core Plus R is the latest, but fret not, that's why this DLC exists. It effectively updates the game to the AC plus R revision. Not too many people know about this, I believe. Even the Wikipedia page for it fails to mention this, and what's best, this DLC is freaking free, so grab it now. It allows you to go back and forth between the two revisions. No reason not to get this. Given that this final revision is not available on too many platforms out there, it's only on Vita, Steam and Switch, nowhere else, I think the 360 remains a great place to have it. That inevitably leads us to yet another severely underrated game, Guilty Gear 2 Overture. This is a very odd entry in the series. It's not a fighting game at all, rather a Dynasty Warrior style action game mixed with a real-time strategy in a subtle and well-crafted way. And this is why I find the game well worth talking about, as well as very underrated. Now overall, it feels like a Musou game. It's mission-based, in big maps, many times with big crowds to manage. I like how you can sprint real fast to the next brawl, reducing the traversal waste of time from games of this kind. I also like the scenarios, well detailed and varied, even counting with some unexpected verticality sometimes. The gameplay is a bit on the stiff side though, and the game has a slow pace overall, full of cutscenes with lots of talking, but the action, though a little bit stiff, counts with all those things from fighting games which make it really cool, and not just special abilities, but the intricate stuff too. And on top of it all, it adds a very welcome RTS aspect. Each map counts with control points called ghosts. Your objective is to conquer the enemy's master ghost and avoid yours from falling. You have to capture the points along the way to be able to call in reinforcements by spending the mana that they provide. You can recruit several different units, as well as spend the resources to upgrade your character and buy consumable items, so you keep conquering new ghosts to eventually have enough forces to take down the enemy's main stronghold. It's pretty cool, man, and not at all shallow like some reviewers called it back in the day. You will be multitasking here a lot. It feels impressively deep, I gotta say. I mean, I love this. Western reviewers just didn't get it back in the day, giving this game 4s and 5s. I mean, come on. Famitsu once again giving it a 29 out of 40, which is much more fair. Perfectly solid game here. And the DLC is also very meaningful. There's a new stage, new skins, and a new character. Overture is a console exclusive to the 360. This was not made available on the PlayStation 3, and the only other choice is Steam for this. But I hear this game runs poorly there, so the 360 is the better version for sure, so check it out, man. More Guilty Gear is always welcome in anyone's life. Let's go! This next one is a 360 exclusive, and this is a game series with the gameplay designed by Masahiro Sakurai. Yeah, no joke. This is Meteos Wars. This is the sequel to the DS game called Meteos. I guess that's how it's pronounced. And it's a great falling blocks puzzle game for sure. It may not look like much, but the gameplay is frenetic and fun as hell. Sakurai knows what's up with making games fun, man. Your task is simple, just match 3 or more blocks of the same type by changing the position of the block of your choosing with the one below it. Matches can be vertical or horizontal, pretty standard stuff, but what happens next is what's cool about this game. The matched blocks solidify and rocket upwards, depending on the weight of the stack of blocks on top of them and the amount of propulsions. The blocks may or may not leave the screen. You can then chain together more rockets, and this is so cool, I love it. This gameplay feels better on the DS though, with a touchscreen, because you can instantly tap the blocks you want, where here you gotta move the cursor all over the screen. But still, the gameplay is awesome, and it counts with several modes and challenges. Must play for falling blocks puzzle fans, and the DLC is also substantial, adding new stages. The game and DLCs may all feel a bit expensive, but it's worth it for the right person for sure. Next is the all-important, freaking awesome, and currently on sale Street Fighter 3rd Strike Online Edition.
You know what they say, the third strike is what counts. You know pace you can get into, don't think that I can knock you out.
Like I said last time, Street Fighter 3 Online Edition is stuck in the 7th generation as of now, and this version of Street Fighter 3 is largely seen as the best one out there of all the official versions, as it counts with completely new artwork, which looks great, improved sound, and the most amount of modes compared to all other versions, including the recent 30th anniversary version, which is more like a port of the arcade, which is great in its own right, but if you're looking for the best official version of 3, this is it. And on top of the game itself, we also have DLCs to pre-order occupy ourselves with. There are 2 character color packs for $2.99 each, unlocking 14 new colors for each character, 2 new music packs for $1.99 each, adding music from Second Impact and New Generation, which is cool, 2 packs of unlocks of things you can unlock playing the game, like the final boss, which would take beating the game with every single character to do so, and you can also unlock the many different gameplay modification options. Each of these will cost you $1 though. And finally, the worst ones in my opinion are the match packs 1 and 2 that cost $3.99 each and unlock matches from a tournament for you to watch. Weird, right? Not sure if there will be many people interested in these, but anyway, your only other option for this game is on the PlayStation 3. Alright, and why not talk about this game one last time? Because it deserves it. Remember Me. This is a freaking great game, unfairly killed by critics, a AAA experience with lots of production value, cinematic cutscenes, formidable dystopian future, impressive graphics, exciting and intriguing story, a memory hacking gameplay which is really cool, and a absolutely solid combat all about keeping up a combo while reading the actions of the enemies and reacting accordingly. This game is also on discount for the remaining days on the store, and check this out, there are DLCs that add new moves based on Street Fighter. Great idea, I love it. The memory pack adds Chun-Li's spinning bird kick, the Neo Paris pack adds Ken's Shoryuken, and the Nylon pack adds Guile's flash kick. They all also include some extra goodies, which I believe are avatars and themes, and you can grab all of them together in the Combo Lab pack for $3.99. Now, definitely one of the biggest highlights, Sanctum 2. We're looking at a first-person shooter and tower defense mashup which feels awesome to play, with cool enemies with interesting behaviors, characters with different weapons, abilities and unlockables, great gameplay loop of building the towers and the maze on a timer, then helping defend the core with your own first-person shooting. The difficulty is well balanced, I mean there's everything you could ask here, except maybe for the low emphasis on the story. But that's it, this is a absolutely kick-ass title, guaranteed fun. And the DLC is nothing less than a proper expansion to the story, so yeah, must get that too. Moving on to a rare strategy RPG on the 360, Record of Agarest War. This is also known as Agarest Generations of War in Europe, and it's a ridiculously long game, over 70 hours long, up to 120 if you want. It actually spans multiple generations of characters, 5 to be exact, where you carry over the abilities and gear from one generation to the next. It's kinda cool. There's a dating simulation aspect to this game too, in typical Idea Factory fashion, as well as a good amount of cleavage in typical Idea Factory fashion. But it never becomes too intrusive, it's fine. Combat is normal strategy RPG stuff, with some added things like alignment between characters, combos you can create by mixing abilities, and several more. Nice game if you like strategy RPGs, though it falls short of greatness, and the DLC is free, so why not? And it adds a few new weapons and items that kinda break the game early on. Moving on to a total hidden gem, hell yeah, Wrath of the Dead Rabbit. This is a pretty cool game, man. Wrath of the Dead Rabbit is a very different kind of platformer in a rather interesting way. Your objective is to kill the 100 special monsters. Each stage will have a few of them, and by doing so you open the way forward. Traversal is often very challenging, with sections on foot where you have to avoid enemies and do some more regular platforming, and sections where you control a crazy blade machine of death with guns attached to it that completely changes the gameplay. Now you're drilling through walls, shooting stuff, platforming changes the momentum completely, and finding and killing the aforementioned monsters, which you do by first regular shooting them down and stuff, and then performing a micro game like WarioWare, with little time to react and crazy amusing things to do. And then you execute them in some over-the-top fashion. Just awesome, great game. No idea what reviewers played instead of this when reviewing, hell yeah. And the DLC is must get, a $4.99 one adding a proper expansion to the story and some extra costumes for $2.99. This next one is an example of a backwards compatible game where some of the DLCs are non-purchasable on 1N series. This is Sid Meier's Civilization Revolution. The Civ series is pretty excellent, but the main games are tailor-made for PCs. So for this entry, they simplified a lot of things down to the basics, but kept it very fun and engaging. Matches are much shorter, there are less things to worry about regarding resources, it has a much faster pace, and several other simplifications. It all results in a pretty great consolidation of the series, and also great for beginners. 3 of the DLCs are free here, so grab those for sure. They add a bunch of new maps. Then there are 3 more scenarios and map packs, which are paid, 125 each, and then 3 wonders and artifact packs, which are the ones unpurchasable on newer systems. I'm pretty sure they will work there, but you can only purchase them on the 360. Those go for a total of 1125 and add several wonders and artifacts, which are kinda meaningful. Note that Revolution is exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem as of today, so this effectively means that the wonders and artifacts DLCs will be completely unattainable in an official capacity after the stores close. This next one is pretty interesting and on the underrated side too. This is Inversion. I think this was very much a victim of the oversaturation of shooters during this generation. Granted, the game is not great, it is subpar in many ways, graphics, sound, and the overly linear progression that sometimes doesn't even allow you to kill all the enemies. Sometimes they just want you to get out of a room and that's what you gotta do. But it's fun and aged okay in my opinion. The gravity stuff will have you clinging to walls and ceilings, as well as manipulating objects by making them lighter or slamming them down in the ground. The environments are fully destructible, which is cool. Yeah, this is like a 7 or so to me, not a bad game. The DLC though is not very attractive in 2024. It's 2 packs of maps for the multiplayer for $1.99 each. This next one is a major highlight I've been meaning to talk about for some time, Chronicles of Riddick, Assault on Dark Athena. This not only brings the Dark Athena sequel, but also offers a remaster of the original game, and they're both great games, so this is a must-get in my opinion. There's a free DLC that adds a interesting commentary mode that you can play through, and a $9.99 DLC focused on the multiplayer, adding new maps, so I think this probably is a skip. Next is one example of a backwards compatible game that didn't carry all its DLC forward, and it's a rather important game too, Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. The original also has DLCs, and they are super meaningful by the way, telling the end of the story, which made it a whole lot better in my opinion, but those are fully available on newer Xboxes. That's not the same for the sequel. The main DLC, which is a proper expansion, and the armored Dracula costume are available, but for some reason the Relic Rune pack, as well as the other costume called Dark Dracula, are only found on the 360 version. Relic Rune grants access to the Transmutation Rune, which allows you to absorb any of the game's relics and transform them into the one of your choice. As for the game, if you're wondering, in terms of combat gameplay, this is a solid title, but it does have some serious problems, like the stealth sections and the fact that this is kind of open worldish, and those 2 things felt weird and unwelcome, and the story is a little bit convoluted too, but not so bad as people make it to be in my opinion. And the Revelations DLC improves it for sure, serving as a prequel to the events of Lords of Shadow 2. It removes the stealth sections completely, the story is not convoluted at all, and the combat gameplay is again very strong in the DLC. Your only other options for this game are Steam and PlayStation 3. Next is Ninja Blade. This one has a few problems, like controls feeling weird for the platforming, and some may frown on the big focus on cinematic gameplay with a lot of quick time events. Those are pretty cool for the entertainment value added, so I found them welcome, but many rather not have quick time events in their games. Action here, however, is pretty much undeniably great. The DLC is simple and free. It's a bonus pack that adds 11 new outfits and 9 new emblems. Next is Puzzle Bobble Live. This is a solid puzzle bobble game, also known as Bust a Move Live. It counts with lots of stages and even more if you grab the DLCs. There are 2 packs of stages from the previous games in the series for $2.99 each. Both game and DLCs are completely exclusive to the 360 nowadays. The next one is from the creators of Hitman, and it's worth your consideration for sure. Kane and Lynch Deadman. There's a sequel that was made forwards compatible to 1 and series, but the original remains stuck in this generation. Deadman's story and characters are great, and it holds no punches with the violence. The gameplay is a bit rough though, so be advised, but the ideas are sound. You can manage a squad of team members, giving them orders, and you yourself will do the typical third-person shooter action. But you will have to grapple with an overall lack of polish in the gameplay. It's not bad, it's just a little bit subpar to what the generation has to offer. The DLC called The Dope Bag adds 4 new scenarios for $2.99, which is very welcome. Next is another game that can be found on 1 and series, but one of the DLCs is unpurchasable. We're talking about Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light. This is an excellent game. I really like this camera angle coupled with the gameplay and graphics. It counts with cool, smooth combat, interesting puzzles, and is even better in couch co-op. DLC is also substantial. There are 3 challenge packs for $2.99 each, a free DLC that adds 2 new playable characters, Kane and Lynch from Kane and Lynch, which we were just talking about in the previous entry. Another couple of new characters, Kane and Raziel from The Legend of Kane, but one of the 2 challenge packs apparently can't be purchased on Xbox One and Series for some reason. It shows up in the store, but as view only. So if you want it there, you only have a few more days to buy it on the 360. The Kane and Lynch DLC is not on Steam, by the way. Moving on to Exit 1 and 2. These are interesting puzzle platformers. The actual puzzles are well crafted and ingenious, but the gameplay is very slow. I wouldn't mention this if it weren't really noticeable and potentially detrimental to many people. That's the only issue though, so if you're fine with that, you'll find a great puzzler here where you have to discover a route while also ordering the NPCs to help you out, using items and everything. Pretty great ideas for the gameplay here. DLCs on both games are proper expansions, providing extra stages, and in the first one they're completely free, so grab those for sure. Next, a massive and super important game, The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. This seems to be fully backwards compatible if you look it up in the store, but I am seeing reports online that one of the DLCs, the Wizard Tower, is not working on Xbox One and Series. This is likely a bug, but apparently to play this specific DLC you have to do it on the 360, if Xboxes are your only option. Of course, it's also available on Steam with a deluxe version as well as on PlayStation 3. And now let's talk some more about Bulletstorm, hell yeah! Okay, the game is awesome, alright, real fun with a push and pull mechanism on top of all the shooting that makes it so very deeply enjoyable. Plus all manner of high adrenaline action movie absurdity happening around you. It's a spectacle is what it is. Now you may be inclined to say that this is backwards compatible, but it's not really. The remastered version called Full Clip is what's available on newer systems. And yeah, it comes with the DLC and adds a new one in form of freaking Duke Nukem, which is awesome, but it also changes the graphics in ways that many don't like. So that's why it may be worth mentioning that Bulletstorm counts with some pretty meaningful DLCs aimed at the multiplayer that also adds a lot of achievements. They add new maps for both Anarchy and Echo missions, as well as some cosmetic items. The online pass is free, so pick that for sure, and it also adds a cosmetic new color for the whip. Moving on to the pretty cool platformer N+. No need for much explanation of this one, just some regular treacherous platforming with some intense momentum-based physics and lots of collectibles to grab in tiny stages. A ludicrous amount of tiny stages. N++, by the way, is a sequel to N+, which itself is a sequel to N. Those are not more updated versions of each other, okay? It's confusing, I know. N+ is only found on the 360, PSPs and DS, and this version here is the most complete because of the DLC. There are 3 packs, each adding 150 new levels, as well as co-op new levels and new ninja colors. And one of them is free and the other 2 are $2.49 each. Next we have Blood Bowl. This is quite unique and an interesting mix of American football and medieval fantasy battles with orcs, dwarves, and demons. This is really cool, I love the idea. It was a board game first though, so it plays like one kinda, so it can be taxing on the player, so keep that in mind. But if you're into it, the DLC is pretty meaningful, adding a new team, the Dark Elves, with completely new abilities and all that for $3.99. The only other option for this game is on Steam. Next on the list is Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. This is a pretty great combat racer on the 360, and this is the only version that comes with Banjo-Kazooie as playable characters. This game plays perfectly well with an emphasis on the drifting, which feels fantastic. You can almost drift non-stop here, and some tracks are freaking awesome too. And on top of it all, there are 3 DLCs, but only 2 are worth getting in my opinion. One adds Metal Sonic as a new character as well as a new track for $6.99, kinda expensive, and the other one adds Ryu from Shenmue as another new character for $3.99. There's also a pack of $4.99 that unlocks all characters and tracks without having to play through the missions mode. Following up with a major game that is backwards compatible, but the DLC is unpurchasable on 1 and series, Sonic Generations. This is the one that mixes the 2 different Sonics, with classic Sonic levels in 2D side-scroller and modern Sonic in 3D levels. This is a pretty great Sonic game, with well-received controls, presentation, level design, especially the side-scroller part of it. The DLC is free and adds Casino Night Pinball Stage, which is a must-get if the 360 is where you have or plan on playing this game, and if you want it on 1 and series, you have only a few days to grab this, because it appears only as viewable on 1 and series store. Then, the entertainingly bad Bullet Witch. This is a mess in many ways. The presentation is the biggest problem in my opinion, especially with the designs of the enemies, which are just awful. The gameplay is okay for the most part, but the spells you unlock one by one are quite amusing, allowing you to cause a lot of fun destruction in this game. The DLCs add 10 new missions for a total of $250, real cheap DLCs here, as well as 5 new outfits for free, so pick those for sure. And finally, the option to lift magic restrictions on several of the new missions for $150. Your only option for Bullet Witch, other than the 360, is on Steam, where it comes with all the DLCs. The next 2 games are found in remastered versions already with the DLC, but we must place a huge quotation mark on the word remaster there. The 360 versions are widely seen as the better options. We're of course talking about the Batman Arkham series. Only Asylum and City have DLCs available on the 360, and those are the exact 2 games that got the remastered treatment that actually makes the graphics look worse. I think almost everyone will agree. The dark, dense, foggy atmosphere is completely lost in the remasters, and that's a very important aspect for Batman games. So if you're still to play these on the 360 or maybe haven't yet tried the DLCs, there's a good amount of them and I love them all. The original counts with a whole bunch of challenges, and let me tell you, these are really cool. They're very hard to pull off, like a sequence of 50 combos, but the most exhilarating thing if you do. The sequel, City, also offers challenges, but on top of that has a bunch of proper expansions with new parts of the story as well as several new characters with completely new abilities. Those are all must-gets in my opinion, and Arkham City also has a free DLC that grants a new skin for Batman. This next one has some pretty major DLC, Samurai Warriors 2. Samurai Warriors is a sister series to Dynasty Warriors from the same developer, still a Musou game, but this time focusing on Japan's history as opposed to the Chinese region history of Dynasty. It's also a bit different in gameplay, with some different mechanics, including dodge rolls and how you do combos. The DLC here offers a major upgrade that turns the game into its Extreme Legends version, adding new characters, new weapons, and a new mode. The problem here is the price. This this costs $29.99. And here's the thing, this may very well be the only legit way to play Extreme Legends version of Samurai Warriors 2 right now for US players other than the PlayStation 2, because from my research, Samurai Warriors 2 was never made available to the PlayStation 3 and Vita in the US, only Japan and PAL regions, and the physical is only in Japan. There is also a PC version, but that's CD-ROM, not downloadable as far as I could tell, so to play it with the HD treatment, this is the only way apparently, which is crazy. There are lots of non-backwards compatible LEGO games with DLCs too. LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham has a bunch, but the one to get is the Season Pass that adds everything and a new mission to top it off for $14.99. The second LEGO Harry Potter, that's years 5 through 7, has 2 packs, one containing 5 spells and another with 10 new LEGO minifigure characters. LEGO Jurassic World has 2 packs that add new characters from the original trilogy of the franchise as well as new vehicles, 99 cents each. LEGO Marvel Superheroes offers 2 DLC packs. The Asgard pack is $1.99 and adds characters from Thor The Dark World, while the Super pack is $4.99 and adds Dark Phoenix, Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, several more, along with new races and vehicles. Then LEGO Marvel's Avengers offers a free pack including Spider-Man characters, so grab that for sure, and a whole bunch of paid DLCs, but your best option is to go with the Season Pass that includes all of them, and that's 40 new characters and new levels with a price discount. Similarly, LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens also offers a Season Pass with a substantial discount and all that stuff, like new levels and new characters. Then the LEGO Movie video game has one pack called Wild West for $2.99 that adds a new character and items. And a final LEGO game to mention is LEGO Dimensions. This game has DLCs that have to be accessed through the game itself, so looking it up in the 360 store will not show anything. There is a Season 2 DLC which is super meaningful, adding a whole lot to the game. There are also other level packs like the Ghostbuster pack and LEGO Batman movie, and from what I gather they are all free since they will require you to have the physical figurines and stuff to be able to access them. And I hear that the 360 version is different from Xbox One and Series, but I'm not sure how so that's all I'll say about this. Moving on to Section 8 Prejudice. This is a pretty cool futuristic first-person shooter, on the underrated side for sure, with some pretty cool mechanisms like the sprinting and the high jumping that add a lot to the shooting action. The only problem is the size of the campaign, kinda short, because the focus here was more on the multiplayer, and that's also true for the DLC. So I'm not sure how valuable those are right now. There are 2 packs of 2 new multiplayer maps for $3.99 each, and a pack of new weapons for $2.99. Next is a lesser known game from Bethesda called Brink. This is a first-person shooter with a rather interesting setting. As the sea level rised, people built a floating city called the Ark, which has now been overrun with climate refugees and is out of control. So a civil war has ensued. You create your character and customize the hell out of him. This has a focus on multiplayer, with the single player also feeling like an online match, and the DLC called Agents of Change is a proper expansion, adding new maps, missions, weapons, and outfits for $4.99. Moving on to Vigilante 8 Arcade. Okay, this is definitely not for everyone. It's a remake of the original from the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64, and this kind of gameplay feels dated now for sure. Not bad, mind you, just dated, different things. So if you're an old school gamer, this has a lot to offer. This is 100% a vehicular combat game. Each stage is a big sandbox arena with scattered items and a few opponents trying to destroy each other. It offers some pretty awesome destruction. I love it. There's a constant need to move around to avoid opponents' shots and collect power-ups and repair kits, and especially activate environmental hazards, which are the coolest thing. But admittedly, the game doesn't have a lot more to offer than that, except for the DLC, which adds 2 new arenas and 3 new cars, which is a proper expansion to the game. Moving on to a pretty different kind of game, this is Choplifter HD. This is a side-scroller game where you gotta rescue war victims and bring them back while shooting enemies and trying not to allow them to kill the hostages. Not too many games like this one, so I find it interesting and pretty fun, though nothing stellar. The DLC is pretty meaningful, adding new stages and new choppers to control, one of which is free. For this next game, a whole bunch of DLCs were lost in the transition between the 360 and One, and are currently only found on the 360 as far as Xboxes go, so this is kind of important. We're talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 2. On top of the expensive $50 season pass, there are several individual pack of items that include new weapon skins, radicals, and calling cards. There are dozens of those in total. About half of them were not carried over to the Xbox One, even though this is a backwards compatible game. 13 of them to be exact. You can see them in the details card that should be popping up right about now on the left side of the screen. This is a rare instance where the missing add-ons don't even show up in the Xbox One and Series store, indicating that these DLCs are not only non-purchasable there, but are likely not even compatible with One and Series. I don't have Xbox One or Series to test this, so if you know whether these DLCs can be used there or not, please let us know down in the comments and I will add this information to the pinned comment. This next one I find a bit underrated, happy to mention it. This is Crazy Machines Elements. Okay, this is a game revolving around the concept of chain reaction contraptions, which are really cool and mesmerizing in my opinion in real life, and it's a great idea for a game too. Every stage is a puzzle where you have to build a contraption with the given pieces in order to achieve whatever objective they give you. And on top of that, they add elements of nature like wind. The idea is fantastic and the execution could be better, but it's a solid game for sure. If you're interested, there are 2 DLCs to expand the fun, adding no less than 50 puzzles and challenges for $5.98. These next 2 I already talked about once. They are currently getting a big discount. They're a similar deal to the Batman games from before. This is Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide. Both of these got the remastered treatment recently, but graphically they are different, not necessarily better. I myself like both the OG and the remastered visuals for different reasons. So that's why I'm mentioning these 2 games here, because you may prefer grabbing the OG games for the looks and take advantage of the sale too. Then the DLC of Dead Island 1 is pretty cool. It's a proper expansion that allows you to replay the game from the perspective of the villain. It also offers a new multiplayer mode and weapon. Then Riptide has a survivor pack that makes the game easier with a new weapon and an XP booster. It also offers a pack of new outfits. Moving on to another underrated game in my opinion, Dead to Rights Retribution. This is a brawler, okay? There aren't too many of those around to begin with, and on top of providing satisfactory fist fights, you can also control the dog, Shadow, which is awesome, and do brutal fatalities of all kinds, because this is a very violent game. Visuals are not the best, even for the time, and there are minor hitbox issues too here and there, but I see this as a solid title nonetheless. 7.5 in my book. The DLC is also cool and freaking free, so grab it, why not? It adds 2 new, more arcadey style point-based modes, accompanied by achievements and new skins. The next game is awesome, but the DLC is really not interesting. Eternal Sonata. This is an excellent RPG, I talked about it before. Check out this video in the corner for more details. It is a very eccentric title, very interesting world they created here. Music is beautiful, the whole game is themed around it, with the main character being the famous composer / pianist Frédéric Chopin, which sounds odd, but the game conducts it very well. Combat is another highlight, with a turn-based mixed with action approach, which keeps things very fluid. I mean, yeah, this is a really great game, but the DLC is very underwhelming. It's only $1, but it serves only to unlock all the music that would otherwise be unlocked as you play the game. That's it, so let's just move on. Okay, this next one was panned more because of not being faithful to the series than to actually being a bad game. Front Mission Evolved. Front Mission is an acclaimed series of tactical RPGs with mechs. People love it all over the world, but the West only got a few of the entries. Several remain Japan only to this day, so we were always thirsty for more Front Mission over here, and when we finally got one of them, it was not what people were hoping for at all. This is a action-based game, think Armored Core, but simpler in terms of gameplay. It doesn't have any big new ideas, what you see is what you get, but it's a perfectly decent game. The major problem was the crushing of expectations from fans hoping for a tactical RPG like previous games in the series. The DLC unlocks several new mechs and weapons, as well as a new co-op mode where you defeat endless waves of enemies with a friend for $3.99. Next is Adrenaline Misfits. Okay, I've played it some more at this point. It gets better. After a frustrating initial hour or so of not having your moves registered as intended, you'll start getting how to bend left and right to turn in a way that it registers better. Your sideways and bending forward is picked up by the camera better. So one way to solve the issue is to switch sides to turn, which works well. It doesn't turn this into a great game, but it went from a 4.5 to a 6 for me. And the new characters you unlock are pretty cool too. DLCs are not though. You get a bunch of new boards for $1 each, and that's it. Next is one of the best Kinect games that will definitely be in my Kinect coverage, the Gunstringer. This is pretty cool. You control a marionette skeleton. It's a blast. We'll be talking about this more soon. The DLC is a must get to. There are 2 new scenarios to download that serve as proper expansions where you even control a new character. They go for $2.99 each. Some more Kinect games with DLCs in this next section are Kinect Sports and Kinect Sports Season 2. The original offers a pack of free minigames and another DLC for $3.99 that adds the Calorie Challenge. Then Season 2 has a all-access pass that adds basketball, golf, and skiing, as well as 2 challenge packs for $9.99. This pass is included in the Ultimate Collection with the 2 games in physical form, but as a voucher code, so be advised. You can also try some free trials for some of the sports as DLCs and get the 2 challenge packs for free as well. I hear Kinect Party is a must-get Kinect game. I haven't tried it yet, but I will very soon. The game is free to download, but the full unlock is considered as DLC and it will go for $9.99. Racketeer is pretty cool. You use your body to catapult and guide rocks and things into castles and bridges and all that. Lots of fun causing of destruction here. That could be better, but is definitely among the good Kinect games, so it may be a good option to download the 2 DLCs for $1.99 each for 2 new levels. Next is a pretty good Kinect game, Fruit Ninja Kinect. It is not anything amazing, mind you. It's a pretty simple game, exactly like Fruit Ninja is everywhere else, only this time you use your body to do the chopping of the fruits in the air. I really like that your whole body is shown up on screen. It makes the controls a whole lot more intuitive and it functions pretty well. And there is 1 free DLC that adds a Christmas theme, so grab that for sure if you're playing the game, and 7 more packs of backgrounds and blades for $1.99 each. They're purely cosmetic, so maybe stick with just the Christmas theme or maybe just the one you like the best. Fable the Journey is also among the better Kinect games for sure. Many may not realize that. It's also among the best looking Kinect games with the most production value. The Kinect things you do are also very interesting, from horse riding to battling, and your moves register well for the most part. This is a solid game for sure. The DLCs are varied. There are creatures you can hang on to the side of your wagon that grant effects like extending your health, artifacts to boost your spells, and grant more experience points. Then Sesame Street Once Upon a Monster may be aimed at kids, but it's probably the best Kinect game aimed at kids. Really well made in every way, with enjoyable activities, and there is a new chapter proper expansion for $4.99. Kinect Rush, also aimed at kids, but now revolving around the Disney Pixar franchises, has a free DLC for taking pictures with Pixar characters. Then next, a few Kinect games that I'm not gonna cover in the video. First is Kinect Joyride. This is all about driving cars, and as such I don't like the gestures you have to make here. Holding your arm in front of you without having an actual wheel doesn't feel great. And the other things you do, like a pumping action for boosts, is also awkward. But if you have it or plan on, definitely grab the DLC because it's free and adds a new car. Next is Kinectimals. This is actually not a bad game, but definitely not for my taste, and I think also not for most of the audience here. But if you have kids who are really into cute pets, they may find this very entertaining. In that case, definitely consider grabbing the DLC called Now with Bears, which is a proper expansion adding a whole lot of stuff, including new locations, cubs, and features. That's the main DLC, but there are also 10 new cubs that you can add for $2.99 each. Fantastic Pets is a very similar ordeal. The game is not for me whatsoever, but it was well received as well. And it also includes 1 DLC adding a new activity and customization options. Motion Sports Adrenaline also has DLCs. This one is really terrible apparently, so I'll just say that the DLC called Urban Jungle adds new tracks, challenges, and outfits for $4.99. $4.99. Rabbids Invasion, the interactive TV show, is another Kinect game aimed at kids so that they can watch the show and do simple movement activities in between scenes. This was released episodically, so each episode can be acquired separately or altogether with a season pass, and on top of that there is a free pack of bonus episodes which is free, so why not? Next is another very cool fighting game, Arcana Heart 3. This has a pretty interesting style of fighting. There is a button for homing your character into the enemy, which is pretty cool and can be used to cancel attacks and guards and a whole lot more. And on top of choosing your character, you pick an Arcana, which changes stats and grants special attacks with a crazy amount of combinations possible. Great game here. If you're into fighters, you should consider this one. This game was not released in NTSC US regions though, only Japan and Europe, where it also counts with a pack of new skins for the characters as DLC. You can play the game on your US Xbox 360 officially because the physical is region free, but DLCs are region locked, so I don't think you can mix and match them like that, unfortunately. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. Also, this game has received several revisions, with the most complete one being Love Max 6 Stars Extend, available only on Steam. Next are two games that were remastered, but there may be a reason to grab the originals. Talking about the Metro series. These are solid first-person shooters with a bit of horror vibes, pretty cool, pretty well known too. DLC-wise, both bring the Ranger mode DLC, which is essentially a hard mode with some serious modifications, like removing the crosshairs from your aiming, making less ammo available, AI more clever. These DLCs also unlock new weapons. There are several other packs on less light, but if you want them all, you can grab the season pass for a price reduction. This unlocks new single player missions, challenges and items, which is pretty substantial. And like I said, Redux, the remastered, brings both to newer consoles, but you should look them up to decide which is better, because they are drastically different in terms of graphics. It's actually hard to decide which is better, because Redux is better looking, while the originals have more fog, which creates a different atmosphere, which is important for a kind of horror game. So that's why I'm mentioning these here. This next one is definitely an underrated game, and it's on sale too, 99 Nights 2. Like I said the two last times I covered this, both 99 Nights games were panned by Western reviewers, but praised by Japanese ones. Critics in this side of the world complain that the game has no depth, but that's not true. The boss fights will require a lot of involvement from the player. These are fine Musou games for sure, but only 2 has DLCs, or is even available digitally. The main one to consider in my opinion is the equipment pack, because it's usable in the single player, adding a new weapon. The other 2 are multiplayer only, with the Roland pack requiring you to have a live gold subscription to be able to download for free, and this is the only way to get that DLC, which is awkward to say the least in 2024. Next is Omerta City of Gangsters. This is odd, it's half a strategy game, half a city tycoon simulation kinda deal. The tactical combat side is pretty cool. You have special moves for each character, pistols, melee weapons. The environments may have obstacles that you can shoot through, so the strategy aspect feels very nice here. But I do not like the tycoon side of it very much. I find it rather boring, lots of waiting around for units to complete tasks, and this is why the DLC is so interesting. The most important one is free and adds a very welcome new car traveling system that streamlines things, fixing that very issue I just mentioned, and it also balances the gameplay in many ways. It also adds new gangs and difficulties, so this is a must-get DLC, and on top of that, this counts with a proper expansion DLC in the Japanese Incentive that adds a whole new episode to the story, as well as several other DLCs that add new scenarios, districts, and characters. This next one has a considerable learning curve, but it can grow on you a lot. Risen 3 Titan Lords. This got the typical niche hidden gem critical reception. Some gave it 5.5s and 6s, while others gave it 8s. And like many open world action RPGs of this generation, Risen 3 has a wide array of unintended bugs and exploits, but if you can look past those, there is a thoroughly fun and enjoyable adventure here, complete with voiceover, deep combat with lots of ideas thrown in, and 2 major DLCs, which are proper expansions for $4.99 each, called The Fog Island and The Uprising of the Little Guys. Additionally, there is a adventure garb pack for some new gear. This next one is unfortunately one rare case where the game is no longer available to purchase, but the DLC remains. Defense Grid: The Awakening. This is very sad because this is a pretty excellent game. It is a awesome tower defense where you fight off aliens with flashy attacks, a long campaign, as well as other modes, and just plain fun and engaging tower defense gameplay. Seriously, take a look on Steam, this is overwhelmingly positive there. But you will only be able to enjoy the DLCs on the 360, which is a proper expansion to the story, for crying out loud, along with 4 other new maps and achievements if you already had purchased the game, cause now you can't anymore. So if you're interested, definitely consider grabbing it on Steam. Following up with a pretty cool and unexpected DLC for Space Invaders Extreme. This game is pretty awesome. It keeps the traditional static screen with aliens coming in from above, and if they reach the bottom you lose a life, so you gotta take care of the first rows before worrying about the farther invaders, which remains a pretty cool gameplay concept. It also keeps the graphics very retro, but it modernizes the gameplay in satisfying ways. The DLC is $2.99 and it unlocks the original Space Invaders as well as the rare Space Invaders Part 2, which is only found in a few collections on PSP, PlayStation 2 and Switch. And next we have some more fighting with Virtua Fighter 5. There's a Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown, but that's a different game with big changes to the gameplay, so this one remains important to mention, especially considering that this is an excellent fighter. The DLC though is not all that impressive, just 3 packs of new customization options to build your own character. One has grown on me a lot. Alien Spidey. Okay, this is really hard. Really hard. It has a tall learning curve, which will feel frustrating at first for a good amount of time. So yeah, not for everyone. But once you get the controls, it's pretty awesome, man. You gotta like speed running action and not minding doing stuff over and over. But I'd say for a hardcore fan of Super Meat Boy, for instance, this is a treat. Not as good, but pretty cool. And the DLC adds even more deviously challenging levels, which I definitely got from myself, thank you very much. 3 Worms games have DLCs in the 360. They are all good or great. You are safe picking anything here. Worms and Worms 2 Armageddon are the traditional style of Worms. The 2007 entry counts with some free DLCs, so grab those for new sounds for the little guys, mostly agony dying sounds, but still, and a free new stage, as well as 3 other new stages, which are 188 each. Then Worms 2 Armageddon does packs of things for the DLCs. One of them is free and adds several new stages, hats and gravestones. Then the rest provide new single player missions, while one called Battle Pack grants new weapons, missions and a new mode. Finally, Ultimate Mayhem is different. This is one of the 3D Worms games, which makes things a bit slower because this is still a turn-based combat kind of game, but it remains perfectly fun. DLCs are divided into 3 packs: single player pack with new challenges and new achievements, multiplayer pack adds 5 new multiplayer maps and achievements, and finally a customization pack, which is a bunch of new hats and accessories. Moving on to IL-2 Sturmovik Birds of Prey. This is a rather impressive aerial combat game. It also looks beautiful. The mission structure is pleasant with many different locations and loads of enemies at once. Great game and a must grab if you're into dogfight shooters. In which case, you should really consider grabbing the Mission Pack Europe, which is a proper expansion to the story campaign. Next we have Arkham Gothic 4. This is a pretty well received third-person action RPG with deep combat but a somewhat dull mission structure. It's more sandboxy than open world, which I enjoy, and there is a DLC that goes for $9.99 that is already included in the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 version called Arkham The Complete Tale. If those options don't seem attractive to you, then do take advantage of the sale that dropped this game's price and grab the DLC too. This next one is rather disappointing because the game is awesome. We're talking about Darkstalkers Resurrection. I spoke about this already. This is a compilation with several enhancements of Darkstalkers 2 and 3, and they're freaking great games. When I saw that this had DLCs, I was thrilled. Even seeing that they were only skins, I thought, well, okay, cosmetics only, but those can be really cool in a fighting game. But instead, the skins are for the arcade cabinets and the arcade room, which you see in the outside hub area. Really disappointing. Next is Dark Messiah of Might and Magic Elements. This one is undoubtedly better on PC, so grab it on Steam if you can, because that version is more complete, with more freedom to upgrade your characters and differences in the levels too. If you're sticking with the 360 though, do consider the proper expansion of the game for $4.99. Moving on to the Dead Rising series. If you want thousands of zombies to kill with the craziest weapons ever, this is where to find it. All three games were re-released on One and Series and PlayStation 4, but most fans agree that they all have performance issues, so the 360 versions, which are not backwards compatible, are seen as better options, especially now with the discounts. So you may also want to grab the DLCs. The original has a bunch of free costumes, no reason not to get those. The sequel adds 4 skill packs with new costumes that also grant abilities, like the ninja suit will make it harder for the zombies to grapple you, for instance. And Off the Record also has the same costume plus ability packs, and a game-breaking DLC that adds pretty much cheat codes to make yourself invulnerable and that kind of thing. Okay, this next part are the games I didn't have time to play, or did but found underwhelming, so I'm emphasizing these less. For instance, I did not like Dollar Dash very much, and as a multiplayer focused game, I think the Steam option would be a better choice. But if you're grabbing it on the 360, there's a winter pack with a proper expansion adding new maps, Robber's Toolkit adding new weapons and upgrades, and a new gameplay mode in the new ways to play DLC. Way of the Samurai is a very interesting series to me. I heard several times about the different games in the series, including Way of the Samurai 3 here, that these games are all about how you can influence the story drastically by the decisions you make. A lot of development effort goes into this aspect, it's a point they're making, so everything else is less glamorous. In graphics, action, and even in the story, which is hella interesting but short. So instead of providing a long story, they incentivize you to replay to watch completely different sides of it, because you choose a lot of sides here. This sounds all very interesting to me. The DLC is pretty cheap too, but also kind of inconsequential. It adds 10 new outfits for $1. Following up with Fight Night Champion. This is yet another excellent Fight Night game, but differently from Fight Night 3, it is backwards compatible on One and Series, which is great, because outside of Xboxes, this game is only on the PlayStation 3. But the DLCs were removed from everywhere except one of them that remains available on the 360 only. It unlocks the new character Legendary Young George Foreman, and what's best, it's free. This shows up in the Xbox One store, but it's view only, unpurchasable. The outfit is backwards compatible, but one of the DLCs is not backwards purchasable. I hear this is better on multiplayer, while graphics as well as the single player gameplay end up feeling underwhelming. The DLCs are free though, adding more multiplayer maps, and like I said, one of them can only be viewed in Xbox One and Series, and that's the Collateral Damage map pack. There are several Spider-Man games on the 360, but the only one with DLCs right now is Spider-Man 3. The game is based on a not very liked movie and is itself not very liked. I haven't played it, so I can't speak much about it, but the DLC may be attractive as it adds a new playable character in the new Goblin for $2.99. Next we have 4 Need for Speed games. Carbon, Undercover, Rivals, and Most Wanted have DLCs on the 360, and these are all non-backwards compatible. Carbon offers a $1 DLC for a new car. Undercover, the game is not even available to download, but the DLC is there. It's the Boss Car bundle that adds 10 new cars. The description for it says that the upgrade is required, so make sure to load the game once to get that too. Most Wanted has the even more meaningful DLC, adding a proper expansion along with extra vehicles and challenges for the hefty fee of $29.99 in the complete DLC bundle. There's also a free multiplayer update, so make sure to snag that. And finally, Rivals offers a handy complete bundle pack for $19.99, covering most other DLCs with a discount. These add mostly new cars. Note, however, that there are 2 free DLCs not included in the complete bundle. One is an update, so get that for sure, and the other is Koenigsegg, holy hell, one, which is a special car. Another DLC I noticed is not in the bundle. is the Rivals Time Saver pack, which is kinda pay to win apparently, unlocking all the modifications for any new car you acquire. Next we have Bomberman Live. There are 3 DLCs for this game that add new arenas, new characters, and a couple new multiplayer gameplay modes, but none of it fixes the issue that this game has, which is not providing a meaningful single player mode, which makes any more recent Bomberman game a much better option for your money. Next is Enemy Front. Don't know much about this one, but I can clarify the very confusing DLC situation for this game. If you only want single player stuff, go straight for the limited pack for $1.99, which contains the single player mission Saint Nazar for less expensive than that mission DLC by itself, go figure. It also adds 2 new multiplayer weapons. There are also 4 packs of characters for the multiplayer that can be purchased all at once for the same price of just one of them by grabbing the bundle pack for 99 cents, again go figure. And finally a pack of multiplayer maps for $2.99 called Multiplayer Expansion Pack. I hear Naughty Bear Panic in Paradise is a really bad game panned by reviewers and players alike, with below 5 scores, far down below 5s in most cases actually. This is stuck in the 7th generation though, so a collector may want to consider the Totally Naughty DLC for $6.99, which includes all the costumes and weapons for all other DLCs in one, and the Naughty Unlocks DLC for $5.99 unlocks all new levels and weapons that you would unlock by playing the game normally. That's if I understood this correctly. Following up with Lost Planet 2. All Lost Planet games are backwards compatible, but one of the DLCs for Lost Planet 2 is not. That would be Map Pack 1, which adds a new multiplayer map from the original game in the series. All games in the series were pretty well received. I know little about them, having played only the beginning of the original, and it becomes extra important considering that Lost Planet 2 is not available on PSN on PlayStation 3, and the Steam version was not even launching, so Capcom removed it from Steam. The only option for this is on Xbox systems apparently, which means that you have only a few days to get this Map Pack 1 and carry it forward to newer Xboxes, because in a few days it will be lost forever until they maybe re-release it or something. This next one is completely exclusive to the 360, Things on Wheels. It seems that Things on Wheels is not terrible but lacks a lot of polish, making it a rough game. Major complaints are on the visuals that sometimes make it hard to discern hazards in the tracks, AI that feels unfair, and a overall bare bones single player that makes it boring. So if you're willing to take the risk, maybe the DLCs will make it better, adding a total of 10 new races, new cars, and new achievements. And I never knew there was a Kung Fu Panda Super Smash like. Yeah, this is Kung Fu Panda Showdown something of the something or another. This is a cool idea for sure, especially for back then. I mean, people are still trying to crack that genre away from Nintendo to this day, but it's not easy, evidently. Showdown seems like a good but not great attempt at it, and the DLC is pretty important, adding new characters, 6 of them, 3 new levels, and 7 new skins. This next one is Dungeon Defenders. This is a pretty interesting mix of tower defense and RPG, and it's played always in multiplayer online. I never played it myself, but it got a great reception. However, since it is always online, the 360 is hardly the best option for it, especially considering that on Steam there are additional DLCs. So even though this one adds a proper expansion to the fun, I'd suggest going with the Steam version if possible, or one of the sequels of the game. Puzzle Arcade exists and is a actual jigsaw puzzle building dedicated game, and the DLC adds more jigsaw puzzles. Next is Two Worlds 2. Apparently this one is well liked by some and disliked by others. As a open world action RPG, this can be hard to get into, but once you do, it tends to grow on you. So this is probably a solid title. But apparently the PC version is better, and it also provides 2 additional chapter DLCs not found here. The DLCs available on the 360 are substantial. There is one adding co-op and versus multiplayer maps for $4.99. Defense adds a new mode, and Pirates of the Flying Fortress adds a proper expansion to the game. Next is Vampire Reign. This one seems terrible, almost unplayable apparently, but it's still very interesting to me. I may pick this one at some point. It's cheesy as hell, budget in so many ways, but it's a stealth horror survival game, man, with vampires. A very unique combination right there. It tries to be Metal Gear in many ways but fails miserably. I gotta try it. So I'm picking up the free DLC only because it's free, and it adds new missions, and they're called VR missions just like Metal Gear, and maybe later I'll grab the physical, which is hella cheap. Next are a bunch of DLCs that are already pretty limited in terms of availability and will soon become even more so, with one of them apparently soon to become completely unattainable officially. We're talking about Medal of Honor. Okay, I don't know much about Medal of Honor. I know that the 2010 entry was well received, but Warfighter was not so much. These two games are totally focused on the multiplayer as far as DLCs go. On Medal of Honor, the clean sweep is free and adds new multiplayer modes, and get this, not a single one of the DLCs made it to Steam because EA wanted to force the players to use their own store. While on the PlayStation 3, I'm not sure if clean sweep was delisted or never added, or even if it's in the game not requiring a download. I'm really not sure, couldn't find this information anywhere, so if you know, please tell us down in the comments, cause this may be a DLC about to become completely unattainable. Then the online pass is free, so you can play this online. The Hot Zone DLC adds a new mode, and the shortcut unlocks all the new weapons without you having to play to unlock them. Warfighter has a multiplayer update which is free. It also has the shortcut pack, which is that pay to win idea again, but this time for twice the price, and Zero Dark 30, which includes new maps and skins. This game is not on Steam, and PlayStation 3 seems to have one DLC that is not available here. Very messy situation for Medal of Honor DLCs. Ridge Racer Unbounded has several bundles, numbered 1 through 4, adding new cars and paint jobs, and an extra DLC called Ridge Racer Unbounded Royal Purple Exclusive Skin. Gotham City Imposter seems to be good but not great. It offers a lot of silly humor, which is not what we usually see in Gotham, and the first-person gameplay is fun and fluid with lots to do, but this is a multiplayer-focused game, so I'm not sure how much it can offer so many years later. DLCs add 2 packs of costumes, weapons, gadgets, mascots, paint jobs, and voices. From my research, this is the only version of the game that remains apparently. Can't see this on PSN anymore or Steam. Fire Pro Wrestling is apparently very unlikable, where you use your avatars to do the wrestling. The DLC is $4.99 and adds 20 new wrestlers, new moves, and new costumes. Sniper Ghost Warriors 1 and 2 adds some substantial new things through DLC. 1 has a single player and multiplayer expansions for $4.99 each, and 2 also offers a expansion along with many new weapons and skins, which can be found bundled in the Gold DLC. A few DLCs though are not in the Gold pack. Those are M14 Sniper Rifle, the Lazarus multiplayer character, the Marine multiplayer character, the Marine Team Leader, and the Jungle Soldier. I can't believe Dark got a DLC and a proper expansion too. The game was universally disliked with real low scores, so I can see how everyone would have gotten that wrong. This is probably a very bad game. Moving on to Test Drive Unlimited 2. This game is very well liked and seems to be severely underrated. Nowadays it's also limited in its availability, only on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 and PCs through its physical option. That's it. There is a seemingly mandatory update to download for free as DLC, and those, as far as I understand, will be going away, even though they are free and mandatory. So if you're on the fence about getting this physically later or not, download the update DLC now. Furthermore, there are 3 bundle packs for several different cars for a total of $19.97, as well as a $4.99 DLC that allows you to play the casino games featured in this game online, which is kinda wild. And now on screen I'll be including the names of the games that are non-backwards compatible and have DLCs, but they were re-released or remastered on 1 and series, and those are as good or better than the 360 versions. And that's it guys. I am running out of time, so I'll be uploading one final video with my final recommendations before the stores close, and I will smash together all topics I have not covered yet. Those are OG Xbox games, Kinect games, and just worthwhile games to mention overall. And then after the stores close, I'm planning a few more 360 projects, more about physical 360 games then, but holy cow, this was insane. I'm just gonna roll over and die for a bit here. This was so much work, man. Thank you so much for your support. This channel is partially and most importantly funded through Patreon. These lovely people here are who keep the channel alive. Every dollar counts. I appreciate all of you very much from the bottom of my heart, and thank you so very much for watching, and I'll go to sleep.